And joining us from the road, parts unknown. I feel like since Bart is only joining us on the video side with an avatar, it's almost like Mr. Wrestling with a mask. From parts unknown, it is at Soccer for USPODs at Bartimus Prime 19. Bart Keeler hopping in this morning. Good morning, Bart.
Good morning. I'm about 10 miles away from Al Lang Stadium. I'm in Tampa this week, spreading the gospel about sustainably made cables. Well, they sent me here. They paid for it, so I might as well go.
Oh, I'm just thinking Tampa. So
yeah, I didn't choose that site, but I'll take the free trip.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And Bart, we are kind of looking at anything and everything going on in the world. I don't know how long you can duck out this morning. But the match.
Well, I'm curious. What is our, like, on a scale of 1 to atomic Zaxby sauce? What's our level of concern over the preseason results? Because I'm at I think they call it wimpy, where I just don't care about preseason results with anything.
My nose is turned up, and I am at the most mild sauce humanly possible. I am nowhere close. I am nowhere close to atomic Zaxby sauce on a preseason. Bart, Jarrett, what about you?
I am undetermined. You don't love the final score of watching your reserves get bounced 3-0, but without seeing it and without seeing how it happened and seeing what mistakes were made.
Wait, Jarrett, you couldn't watch the match? What was wrong? What was wrong with being able to watch the match?
Well, you see, you know what? Part of it's my fault. I sent them an iPhone 3G I went back in time, got an iPhone 3G from about like 2010, and sent it over. And man, it just did not work. That's on me. That's my fault. My backup plan was to send them an old HTC Thunderbolt, which was the first ever 4G phone, if I'm not mistaken.
Wow.
Fun fact, it came with an extended battery pack that you could buy separately because the 4G sucked the battery life out of it so quickly. I know this because I had one. But, yeah, I unfortunately I wasn't able to watch because the iPhone 3G I sent down there failed. And that was after it was we had a discussion about the philosophies of landscape versus portrait mode.
But all that being said, like, without seeing how the mistakes were made or how the plays were made, yeah, I'm kind of like, yeah, you don't love to see the results, but I want to see more of how they're happening. You know what I mean?
Right, absolutely. And that's where I'm at, because even with the first game against Chattanooga, I think people overreacted to the fact that this was the first time that we had played together for a very long time. We had several guys coming off of injuries. Be patient. I'm not hitting the panic button yet either. Now that said, if they don't look good against, in the AmFam Cup against Pachuca or Toluca or one of those, who are we playing? I don't know. I turned down my tickets for that game. Then I'll be concerned, because we got to start looking like we can actually compete. And as I've said for a while now, this team has to prove that it's a good team, because it hasn't done that as of late. And they're continuing to not prove they're a good team. That said, I'm willing to give them preseason to get that together.
For the record, AmFam 2 Electric Boogaloo is against Toluca.
That one.
A week from tonight at Mercedes.
Pachuca's where Chicho went to.
Yes,
that's right.
Chicho Arango for $5 million.
And LAFC is somehow replacing him with Aubameyang.
Sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Salary cap is a theoretical concept.
That's absolutely correct.
Yes. So we've got that to look at as well here. Sam Williamson, is it Buffalo garlic level concern? Will, is it milk level of concern? Ricky Ricardo.
Garlic's a good sauce.
Ricky Ricardo, is it Zaxby's barbecue level concern? Very smoky barbecue sauce, but still barbecue. And Uncle is worried about the defense's readiness, and the midfield attack should be fine with Yakamakis coming in. So that's the variety of concerns so far.
Yeah.
When it comes,
I understand the defensive side of it, because you are getting Miles back. You want to see how he is coming off of that injury. It looks like he'll be ready to go. In the back of my head, I'm wondering,
Does Brad make the play he made against Chattanooga in a regular season game where he tries to knock the ball down and it bounces off him for an easy tap in, or do you just let it go out? I mean, it even the goal you give up against Atlante. I'm sorry, I keep giving them an extra A. Atlante.
Yes.
Yeah, the goal he gives up there, it looks like they might have been offside, but that beside the point. Defense didn't crash the way you wanted them to, and it's hard to tell from that angle.
Yeah.
But the shot may have taken a weird swerve or may have had a knuckle to it. But I'm very intrigued to see how they clean up these defensive miscues.
Yeah. Well, and I think I'm with you, Jarrett, that of all the people I'm going to give the most patience with is Brad Guzan, because he does. I feel like that position, you need to be quick with your reflexes, and those aren't quite back yet. I also think that it's fair to say that he is at the final stage of his career journey. But I also agree with you. I feel like a lot of the goals that people are ragging Goose for, I'm wondering where the defense was on these goals, because some of the defenders were just watching him like you watch a duck on a pond in a park. It was just oh, that's interesting. Oh, I should maybe do something. And then it was too late.
Yeah. And, you look at all of these things, and like I said, I'm at nose turned up, shaking my head level of concern. I just want to see, like everybody's saying, I want folks to be healthy. I don't want what we had with George Campbell and Machop Chol last year. Where they were injured in Mexico in training camp, and then their returns did not help them become integrated from the beginning, and they had to kind of catch up from the ground running when they got healthy. And for me, that's where I am. It's look, figure out your relationships, figure out when someone wants the ball, where do they want it. I know that there are new faces and things like that. Everybody's coming in healthy, fantastic. Develop your symbiotic relationships and your feel for those around you. That's what I want here in the preseason. So when you get to the 25th and the game against Jarrett San Jose Earthquakes, you know where that player or those players around you in those triangles are going to go. You know what you can do comfortably. You know that you can hit that cross and know that that player is going to be there. Those kinds of things. Work on that right now. Get out of there healthy. That's just me.
Yeah, and that you're exactly right. I think is that you want health after this preseason, because last season was bad, and Jarrett, I know as much as I do that for a goalkeeper coming back off of something like this, it's just hard, and you need the people in front of him to continue to grow as well, and that includes Miles, includes his new partner, and that includes even to an extent. Ozzy Alonso coming back, Ibarra figuring out what position he actually plays. These are things that, guys have to figure out on their own. And hopefully they get it through this preseason.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm not going to lie. I was kind of perplexed by this whole thing where, whether or not how people felt about, because Brad he should be able to come back and do that. Your Achilles is pretty damn vital as a goalkeeper. It's when you're going from prep tense to, pushing off and, you're using those quick twitch muscles. It can be a lot of strain on that Achilles tendon, and Brad is not a spring chicken at all. That being said, you brought in two veteran goalkeepers. Not sure what to expect of them, and I think a lot of us are a little rattled because of you brought in a veteran goalkeeper last year. To be your backup, and Bobby wasn't it. Bobby had hit.
Well, there's a difference between a veteran backup and a guy who's literally at the end of his career. And I don't think either of us were the offer at that point.
Well, and Bobby also had to learn how to play with the ball at his feet, something that he wasn't comfortable with, and as he tried to learn. He was having to learn. It was on-the-job training for Bobby to try to integrate into the system and do what the demands are of this particular philosophy, and it was rough at times with Bobby. And so they had to dial back what they wanted to do philosophically to deal with Bobby's skill set. So I mean, that's the way it was with Bobby.
Yeah. And so, I mean, I think people are a little bit spooked on the backup goalkeeper side on that front. You do have two really good young goalkeepers, and again, goalkeepers age differently. So it's hard to sit here and say, like, yeah, throw Justin Garces in there. Although I think he's getting to the point in the next – I would like to see him some this year, and then next year I think you want to start getting him more minutes. Vicente Reyes.
I'm ready to throw him in now, but that's just me.
I mean, Vicente Reyes is another one that I'm really high on. Garces is great. Vicente Reyes is still a teenager.
Yeah.
And I think you're going to be looking at those guys in the near future, but I get what you can out of Brad Guzan. I will eternally give Brad Guzan credit because of the reports. I think it was last year or the year after that, or the year before, that he did the Chipper Jones. You know, he took a bit of a pay cut to free up money.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I will forever give him credit for that because guys don't have to do that. They're well within their right to not change their contract setup at all. And he really has been a leader for this team.
No question. And Bart, when you look at a lot of different things here, especially at keeper, because of the multiple competitions that you're going to be involved in, you need 1A, 1B.
Yeah.
You need, because you're looking probably what? If you max out in all of your competitions this year, you're looking at basically 50 matches among Open Cup, Leagues Cup, and Major League Soccer. And this is maxed out.
Yeah.
50 matches. You're going to need 1A, 1B, or 1, 2, and 3, and bringing in a guy like Quentin Westberg as your 1B/2, having a guy like Clement Diop as your 3, having Reyes and Garces there as a part of the system. You need that kind of depth in a season like this.
Well, and I think the question that we're going to have, because you're going to have to pick one of these auxiliary competitions, which one is the Play Your Kids competition, you know? And I haven't decided which one, because personally, I think the Open Cup is a lot more variable and just weird. And I think you could just do a Play Your Kids thing. And if you go out early in the Open Cup, then so be it. But
either one now gets you into CONCACAF Champions League.
Yeah, you're right. So that's my next thing, though, is like, if you look at Leagues Cup, would you rather eliminate the variables in Open Cup and try to go win that, like a trophy that you've already won before? It would be really cool to repeat as a trophy winner. Well, that's false. We were 3-time champions of the Open Cup, but no one wants to admit that.
Yes.
But you look at Leagues Cup, and you're going to get
conversation, bud.
Leagues Cup gives you 2 games that you know are going to be a little bit more, you know what they're going to give you. So is that your Play Your Kids competition? So they get, and I don't mean like kids, but is that hey, Garces, you're starting these games because we want you to get real action in a relatively low stakes environment. If you've gone out in the group stage of Leagues Cup, I don't think rational people are going to look at that and go, wow, this is terrible, if you're doing the Play Your Kids thing. But I'm interested to see which competition that is that we do that, because I do think it offers an opportunity to play even like a Noah Cobb, where these guys seem to be people who you want to include as future stars of this club. How do you get them integrated in a future competition like this?
Yeah, Jarrett, I know a lot of folks are staring at Noah Cobb as the next wave, as a part of the next wave for Atlanta United. I'm excited about what Noah Cobb could possibly bring to the table this year. I'm excited to see him and his growth. And if it's, with the first team most of the time, looking forward to it. A Johnny Fortune, Jackson Conway, you give me these young guys, Reyes and Garces, et cetera, and see how they can integrate this season, I'm all for it.
Yeah, I want to see how much time they get on the field, what they're able to give you consistently. It's going to be it's going to be interesting to see, and this goes into an entirely different conversation, by the way, that I'm happy to have with people. And that entirely different conversation is how we deal with homegrown kids, because how are we going to have this conversation of homegrown kid is, you give him time on the field. If they don't hit the ground running and they're if they hit the ground running, they're making mistakes. That's okay because they're teenagers. You're bringing kids up to be homegrowns. You're not expecting them. At least I don't think you should be expecting them to be, life-changingly good from the jump. They're gonna make mistakes because a lot of them are not even old enough to, go buy a beer down at the store.
So you don't want a Johnny Fortune and Ronaldinho, are not the same thing.
No, and it's completely asinine that we do. Like we did that. Well, here's the thing, man. We did this last year with George Campbell.
Yeah.
And look, I'm not saying that players are exempt from criticism. Of course you can hold them and say, hey, this is somewhere you need to get better, kid. Like, yes, have that conversation, but also have it in a way that's realistic. That, this kid made some mistakes in this game. Oh, in this game he did really well. Great. That's where we should be having this conversation of he had a good game. He had a bad game. Okay, well, start building on more good, less bad. That's what I want to see as a fan.
Bart, what about you and the youngins this year? Who are you looking at? Who are you most looking forward to seeing?
Well, I think you've got two guys who have an opportunity to really take a step up, and one of them is Jackson Conway, because despite what Georgios, we don't quite know what the situation. Georgios, Gianlukas, I'll get that eventually. Despite what we think he might be doing, we're still going to need a striker probably on February 25. This is what I'm guessing.
Come on,
yeah. Listen, I'm not opposed to that. But Jackson or Machop Chol have to take a step forward because they're at that point in their career where you got to prove your MLS quality, because they haven't quite proven that they've had moments.
Right.
But have they proven it consistently? I mean, Jackson Conway scoring a header in Nashville to get a draw in our worst season ever was a highlight of my Atlanta United fandom. But he's got to do more than that, and those are the two I'm looking at is not because I'm excited necessarily, but more of a, hey, what are you going to show us this year to prove that you should stay here longer than 2023?
Yeah. And Unc, to your point, the difference is when the mistakes have a direct effect on results. That happens. It's part of growth.
Yeah, that's why we got rid of Alan Franco.
And that's the thing is, like, I think you're more forgiving of it when it happens, like with a George Campbell, with a George Campbell than with an Alan Franco, because Alan Franco, you're expecting to come in here and be a leader. George Campbell, yeah, he's going to make mistakes. You know who really dealt with this a lot was in 2018 Philadelphia. 2018 Philadelphia played a couple of young center backs, including Austin Trusty, and they made some really bad mistakes in that season. By the time they got to the playoffs, and they were able to make the playoffs, by the time they got there, those kids had cleaned up a lot, and they were better. But yeah, like I said, we shouldn't exempt kids from criticism, and we should expect them to be able to do, certain things well and to take steps forward. But man, yeah, for me, there's a lot last year where I felt like we're holding homegrown kids who are in there because of depth issues to DP standards sometimes, and
to your point there. To your point, though, what do we see from Caleb Wiley, Tyler, and Wolf this year that shows that they learned from that experience? Because they were good for a good part of the year. Right? Caleb Wiley was a perfectly acceptable substitute left back or left winger. So how does he take that step forward? And I'm really excited to see that, but I'm more excited for that as a theoretical concept than the fully applicable, concrete can Jackson and Machop cut it in MLS.
Yes. Bart, how much longer do you get to hide?
6 minutes.
Okay. All right. So we'll go to the top of the hour with Bart, and then we'll wrap it up by 11:05 because the match will have started at Estadio Azteca with Atlanta United and Cruz Azul. Are you dropping back down to Florida, Bart, quickly for She Believes Cup?
I won't go to Florida, but I will be driving up to Nashville. So that game is Sunday. We're doing an up and back the same day. Luckily, the afternoon kickoff affords us that opportunity. But I will be at She Believes Cup in Nashville. We will have an AO Atlanta representative or two at the game here in Orlando. And then I think we might have a couple in Dallas. We have a couple of people who moved out to Dallas in the past year, and they'll probably be at that game.
Okay. So everybody knows, everything's on Peacock and Universo. 2 games back-to-back, Thursday in Orlando, Japan, Brazil, USA, Canada. That's on the 16th. The 19th that Bart's talking about, 3:30, 6:30 at Geodis, USA, Japan, Brazil, and Canada. Frisco, Texas on the 22nd, Canada, Japan at 4, USA, Brazil at 7. So The thing that I wanted to get into with you, since this is your first visit since this came out, Mark Geiger was asked by Mike Voitala at Soccer America, advice for ambitious young refs. And as our resident ref, I wanted to get your feedback on Mark Geiger's advice, who, may want to see themselves working in the pros or even in a World Cup. He has 6 points. We have 4 minutes. So, we can play it almost as cliffhangery if you want. First and foremost, he says you got to do games. Long journey with every single match you're developing that skill set. That seems like a giant duh.
Yeah.
Number 2.
Take the games. That's good. That's good advice.
Go outside your comfort zone. Challenge yourself on the next level of the game. It's not going to be perfect. Doesn't have to be perfect because that's where you really learn where your deficiencies are. You can go back to your comfort zone and work on that skill set as you continue to challenge yourself in those more difficult matches, the difficult matches that become that next comfort zone, and you continue to move up in that way. Knowing what's a foul, what's not a foul is obviously important, but you must know how to manage players, manage the game, and navigate through difficult situations.
That sounds great.
Okay. Number 3, coping with mistakes. You have to own it. If you want to become a better referee, you have to be honest with yourself and with mistakes that you make. You can't think or portray that you're perfect all the time.
Yeah.
Admit when you make a mistake. Number 4, abusive coaches and parents. We have to ignore it sometimes, but use the tools at your disposal to deal with the coaches.
Mm-hmm.
Number 5.
That's a big one for all youth soccer. For anyone who's in youth soccer, please help us all put a stop to that.
Number 5, watch the game. Kevin Stott was always the person I looked up to. He was the model referee that I wanted to be. Many of the things I did on the field at the youth or amateur level at that time were things I saw Kevin Stott doing. Then what I did is modify that to fit my own personality, fit what I needed to do in a game to manage a situation, find somebody who seems to have the same type of personality as you, look to see what they're doing and how they're managing situations, and adopt that to be part of your game. You like 5?
Yeah, actually, I would advise, my addendum to that would be, there are a lot of professional referees you could look at. I like Ismail Elfaf personally, but there's always referees that you work with who do it in a way that you can take pieces from. And the other thing is everyone's style is different. So to his point, look at someone who you think is really good, see what they do well. Look at someone who you think is not very great. Look at what they still do well. There are still things that they might do well. But that's a good point. And find someone that you can look up to. But for young referees at the grassroots level, there are going to be referees in your club that you work with that you can look up to.
6, and his last one. Mentorship is huge. You're not going to be able to move up through the ranks from the youth through amateurs up to professional without having a mentor, having somebody you trust who's going to be honest, who's been there and done that through a referee's journeys. They're going to outgrow some mentors. They're going to be people who can just bring you so far, who maybe have not experienced the level of soccer you're going to next. Then you have to find a new mentor, someone who's been there who can tell you about the game and how to prepare and how to navigate through matches or certain situations. Those are his 6 thoughts about.
I think that's better than we've heard from Howard Webb. So I'm already liking this. I think he has a lot of. I think he has a lot of.
Howard Webb was.
Yeah, he's actually trying to help people.
God forbid.
And I'll summarize, I think, all of them by just saying that, like, the whole point is you're constantly learning as a referee. So to his point about, admit when you make a mistake, it's hard to admit that on the field, and it's certainly not something you need to do a whole lot of during the game. But there are little things that you can admit that you messed up on that help the players understand that, hey, I'm in this too. For example, one that I always come back to is I may have given an advantage or not given an advantage. And the players will react one way or another. And afterwards, I'll be like, hey, hey, that was my bad. I probably should have given that advantage there, but I thought it was a bad foul and needed to call it or something, and admit that you may not have played the game that they wanted to play sometimes. That's great advice. I think, again, mentorship and looking at and role models are very good because you need to find someone who you trust. And this is true in every profession, but especially in refereeing where you have a lot of people who give you a lot of feedback that's not coming from a good place. So having a referee mentor that you can look up to that is going to try to give you honest feedback, but constructive feedback is very important.
All right, added time really quickly. David says, biggest issue he sees with youth refs, they need to talk to kids. Explain why they stopped the game, talk through excessive grabbing and pushing, talk to the kids playing. Item 2, be in charge. If you blow the whistle and kids keep playing, you have to stop the game. Number of times I've seen a ref hold for a quick throw and takes place, and then the ref just lets them play. So be in charge for David.
And don't be afraid to be in charge is the hard thing there.
Yeah.
Hell, I'd love to see the USL refs do that. That was one of the things. That was one of the things we dealt with last year, John, when we called twos games. Was how often, Demianchuk, I think, was the one who was most infamous for this. Was communicate with the players, like even early in the game. Hey, that's a foul in the midfield. That was kind of an ugly foul. Well, communicate with the players. Tell them, hey, careful, and then communicate with the team that was fouled and say, I'm watching it. I'm talking to them. We're working on where we're going to set the line. Communicate with the players so they're not guessing. Absolutely. It isn't that hard.
Nope.
No, I think that's one thing that I would say that I would give young referees advice is to find your voice because everyone communicates differently. I have referees that I work with who say, I don't like to talk to the players at all. And I will just say that I vehemently disagree with that. Yep. But I also understand that not everyone is as extroverted as I am and is not as willing to have those conversations. But you got to find ways that you communicate to the players to let them know exactly like you said, Jarrett. Because sometimes you may not call the foul because, like, again, you might let that advantage go. Or it's like, in the grand scheme of things, it's really not that bad. But, like, hey, watch yourself because you're approaching that line. And those are things that you need to know. And also, like, the game changes. Some games are different. So you have to communicate every game where you're seeing that line being drawn.
All right, Bart, go talk sustainability.
All right, I will go talk about sustainable cabling. I will leave you with this. We have breaking news. Orlando will host the USA El Salvador Nations League match on March 27th. That is the final match of that tournament coming back from Grenada. So Orlando, you're getting another soccer game. Congratulations. I don't know why y'all keep getting this.
Bart, we'll catch up with you next time.
Bye, y'all.
All right, Bart Keeler. He's in Tampa talking stuff.